Hey, this is Bente for CG Tuts, and in this tutorial we're going to be doing some architectural modeling. We'll be building this structure here, and this is actually a water fountain from the University of North Carolina, and I just found a few pictures of it online and thought it might make a good modeling tutorial. Alright, so we won't be doing UVs or textures on this one, we'll just be doing the model, and it's really not that complicated. It looks a lot more complicated than it actually is. Okay, so we'll pretty much start from the bottom and just work our way up to the top, adding the detail as we go. Right, so we'll start on the bottom here on the steps, block those out, as well as the little stand here for the fountain, and then we'll move on to the column, and the columns will actually be built out of 5 separate pieces for each one. So we'll get the vertical piece in there, as well as the little blocks at the bottom and top, and then we'll model out this detailed molding piece here using some splines, and we have a few of these type of pieces on the model, so we'll do a few of them out of splines, and the other ones we'll do out of edit poly. Okay, so once we have a pillar complete, we'll just clone it around using the array tool to get everything evenly spaced and positioned correctly. Then we'll move up and start working on the ceiling, as well as some of this molding detail up here. Alright, and once we have that done, we'll move on to the actual roof and shape that out, as well as add some of this shingle type detail up here, this plating. Okay, and the final piece for the actual structure will be this detail here under the overhang. Okay, and we'll also do these out of splines. And then we'll move on to the final piece, which will be the water fountain in the center. Okay, and this is a little bit more of a tricky shape. It looks really simple, but it's actually a little bit tricky. We have a really smooth bowl on the center, and we'll have to do some spline work up here and then combine it with some poly modeling to get the final shape. And then we'll do the little water spout there as well. Okay, we'll also go over and pretty much add smoothing groups to most of the pieces of the model. Nothing on here is really turbo smooth besides this spout there. Okay, so we'll pretty much smooth everything out with just smoothing groups. Alright, so I'll be using 3D Studio Max 9 for this, and let's just jump into Max and get started. Okay, so before we get going here, let's just take a look at a reference image. Alright, I have a few of these here that I'll include a link of where you can download them. Alright, and some of them are pretty giant, but we only really need to use one just for the basic proportions. This isn't really that complicated of a structure, so I think what we'll do is just start on the base, and we'll probably work our way from the bottom to the top. Alright, so let's do this now, the stairs. Okay, and we'll just start this with a cylinder, and I'm just going to use generic max units. Okay, so if you go up to customize down to unit setup, you can switch it to generic here. Right, so it's not any kind of real world scale, it's just the default measurement for max. Right, so we'll grab our cylinder and we'll just draw this out in the top view here. Right, okay, give it a little bit of height, and let's also get rid of the grids here with G in each view, and I'm also going to get rid of that selection bracket around the selected object with J. Right, and we'll turn on our edge faces with F4 in the perspective view. Okay, so for the radius on this, we'll do maybe 102, and for the height, let's bring it down a little bit here. Let's do maybe 6. And we don't really need any of these height segments, so we'll just right click the spinner to take it down to 1. We'll do maybe 2 cap segments, and we're going to take the sides up pretty high here. Alright, we're not going to turbo smooth any of this stuff, so we'll just add a bunch more sides here so it's smooth render. Let's do like 70. Okay. And I think that should probably be about the right size for starters. Okay, so let's right click, and we'll convert this to poly. And the first thing we'll do is go into polygon, and we'll do Control A to select all the polys. Alright, and in the front view, I'm just going to hold Alt and deselect the top and sides. Right, so we just have the bottom polygon selected, and we'll just delete those. Alright, we really don't need those in there. Alright, and to get this step here, the second one, we'll just use this inner segments here. Alright, so we'll go to Edge. Let's just grab one on the loop there, and we'll do a loop on it. Okay, and then we'll go into the top view, and we'll go to Scale, and we'll just scale this out. Alright, and we'll do maybe something like that. And you can see down at the bottom there in the XYZ how much I'm scaling it. Right, so we'll do like 170 on the XYZ. Right, and I think that should be about right. So let's go back into Polygon here and back into the top view, and we'll just grab all the center polygons, and we'll do an extrude on these. Right, so let's open up extrude, and let's see. Let's do about 6 on that as well. Right, and we'll do that by group and OK. So that'll take care of the 2 stairs. Alright, so we'll just go into edge here, and we'll just chamfer down some of these edges on the outside here. Alright, so let's grab this one here and this one, and we'll do a loop on those 2 edges. Okay, and you can see this is pretty sharp on the edges here. Okay, so we'll just chamfer that a bit just to knock off the sharp corner. Let's do maybe about a 0.3 or so on that, and OK. And I think just to make things easier, we'll do the stand here under the fountain out of a separate piece later on. And let's make sure we chamfer down this inner edge as well. So we'll select one there and do a loop. Okay, and we'll chamfer that down. And let's take it down a little bit more. Let's do maybe 0.15 or so. And if we hit F4 here to turn off our edges, you can see that that's a little bit faceted on the sides here. Okay, so we're going to add some smoothing groups to this just to make it look a little bit better when we render. Okay, so we'll go back into edge. Right, and I'm going to select an edge on the side of the top stair. Okay, and one on the outside of the stair here. Okay, and we'll do a ring on those. And we'll hold down Control and click on Polygon. And we're not going to include the chamfered edge with this smoothing group just because I want to keep those as sharp as possible. Okay, so we'll go way down here in the Modify panel, and we're just going to put this on smoothing group 1. Okay, so just click that. Alright, let's get over that for a second, and if we hit F4 here, you can see that looks a lot smoother. And we can actually even just do a test render here with F9 to see if that looks good. Okay, and that's smooth enough. So we'll go with that. And if you really want to, you can come in and actually smooth out the chamfers. Just grab an edge there, do a ring, Control click Polygon, and then you could just put that on a separate smoothing group. Say 2. And let's actually just do that on the radius outside one as well. Let's go back to edge here. Grab one there and do a ring. Control click Polygon, and we'll put that on 3. Okay. And you can do that if you want. It's really not necessary probably on something like this. Okay, so that looks pretty smooth. We'll go with that. Alright, and before we move on here, let's just name this something. We'll call it base. And I'm just going to switch the color here to black. Okay, and I'm just going to open up the material editor by hitting M. And we'll just grab a blank slot there and assign it. Okay, and I'm going to make that maybe a little bit more of a white color. Right, that's just a personal preference. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can leave it as is. I just prefer to look at it this way. Okay, so we'll move on to the pillars now. And before we move on to doing the columns, let's actually get the stand piece here out of the way first. So let's pull this image up. Right, you can see it's pretty simple. I think we can just do this pretty much out of a cylinder. Okay, so we'll do that. So let's go back into the top view. And let's grab another cylinder here. And actually let's select the stairs here first, and let's right click on the move tool, and we'll just zero out the X, Y, and Z spinners, okay, just so we know that it's centered to the world. That'll make things easier later on. Right, so now we'll grab a cylinder, drag it out in the center, give it a little bit of height, and let's just move it up on top here. Okay, so we'll just set it right on the top. Right, and we don't need those height segments on there, so we'll take those off. Let's do a radius of maybe 25, and let's take the height down a bit. Let's do maybe 2.5 or so on the height to start. And we'll take the sides up again. Let's do about 60 or so on the sides. All right, just so everything's smooth. Okay, we have a little bit of a detail here. Okay, so we actually have quite a bit of this kind of detail on the model. So I'm going to show a couple of different ways to pretty much achieve the same look. Right, so let's convert this to editable poly. And let's go into polygon here. We'll select all the polys. And then in the front view, we'll hold Alt and deselect the top and side. So we have the bottom cap selected, and we'll just delete that. And let's actually turn off polygon here. Let's convert this to editable mesh instead of editable poly. Alright. And we're going to extrude this out and just use extrude and bevel down here on the spinners to kind of shape this into the shape that we want. Okay, so we'll select the top polygon. We'll do this in the front view. Just zoom in a bit on it. Okay, and we'll go down here to the extrude spinner. Okay, we're just going to take that up a little bit. And then we'll take up the bevel as well, okay, to bring it out just a bit, right? And then with the move tool, we'll just move the polygon down, alright, so we have a flat edge here, okay? Then we'll extrude again, just a bit, and let's do one more, and we'll bevel that out a little bit farther, and let's bring this one down as well. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfectly flat, just get it close. Okay, so we'll extrude one more time, maybe something like that. And that'll give us pretty much the detail we're looking for. Okay, so we'll turn off polygon, and we'll convert it back to editable poly. Let's just right click and hide unselected for a second. And you can see the edge here is pretty rounded over. Right, so let's go back to polygon, and with the top poly selected, we're going to hold down control and click on edge. Alright, now I'll select the outside edge for us. Okay, so we'll come underneath here, and let's just change the color here. Right, and we'll hold control and just click on one of these edges here along this loop underneath. Okay, and then we'll hit loop. Okay, so we have both those edge loops selected. And then we'll go into the front view here, and we'll just zoom in on one end here. Okay, and then we're going to chamfer this down. Okay, we'll bring the amount down. Alright, and we want it to be pretty smooth on the rollover. Okay, so we'll do maybe, let's do maybe 0.35, and we'll hit apply, and we'll bring the second one down. And we'll do about 0.12 on the second one. That'll give us a smooth rollover. So we'll hit OK, just like that. And then we'll select this edge here on the next section down, and we'll just chamfer that over a bit as well. Okay, let's take that down a bit. Let's do maybe about 0.1 or so on that one. And then we'll go in really close here, and we'll grab this inside edge and this one underneath. Okay, so just the ones underneath. Do a loop, and we'll just chamfer that down a little bit tighter. Okay, we'll bring that down. Let's do about 0.04 on that. Okay, that'll give us our platform there for the fountain. Right, and if we turn off our edges here again with F4, you can see we have the same thing here. It looks faceted. Okay, so we'll add some smoothing groups to this part as well. Let's zoom in here. Okay, we'll go to edge, and let's just grab an edge here on the top of this loop going up. Alright, now I'm going to hold down control, and we're going to go over to the loop button here, and we're going to use the spinners. Alright, so I'm going to hold control and just click on the arrows. Alright, you can see that it'll grow the selection. Okay, so we'll just continue it down to the end of the rollover. Okay, so we'll stop right here where this polygon is flat underneath. Okay, and then we'll hit ring, and then control click polygon. Right, so we have all the polys around that top piece selected, and we'll put this on a smoothing group. Okay, so let's go down, and we'll just do maybe 1. Okay, let's actually expand this here. Alright, and we'll skip some here. Let's go back to edge, we'll skip these inside ones. Let's select this one here, okay, this flat one, and let's also do this one here as well on the bottom. Okay, then we'll do another ring and control click polygon. Alright, and we'll go down to the bottom here and put this on 2. Okay. Alright, we'll zoom back a bit and let's get out of polygon and we'll just turn off our edges. Okay, so that looks a lot smoother. Okay, so let's right click and unhide all. Okay. And let's also make sure that the stand is centered. Okay, so with it selected, we'll right click on the move tool and we'll zero out the X and Y spinners. Okay, you don't want to zero out the Z, else it'll drop the platform down to the bottom. Okay, we want to have it up. Okay, so just like that. Right, and let's change the color of this to black. And we'll just throw the white material on there. Okay, and we'll also name it. Let's call it stand. Okay. Alright, and you can see if we turn off our edges again, that the shading looks a little bit weird on top of the platform there. Alright, and that's because we have a smoothing group applied to the top face there, and we really don't need to have one on there because it's perfectly flat. Okay, so we'll select the stand again. Let's go into polygon. Okay, we'll just grab the top poly, right, and then we'll go down again, and we're going to turn off the smoothing group here. So we'll click on one, that'll take the smoothing group off of that polygon. Okay, so now if we turn off polygon, and you can see that looks proper now. It's not shaded weird. Okay, and we'll do a test runner here with F9. Okay, now it looks fine. Alright, so we'll go with that. That'll take care of the stairs and the platform. And we'll move on to the columns now. Let's take another look at the reference here. And we'll do the columns out of 5 separate pieces. Okay, for each one. And we're going to start with the main section. Okay, just to get that in there, and then we'll work on the space part afterwards. Okay, so let's go into the top view. And let's grab another cylinder maybe. Okay, we'll just drag this out over here. And we'll give it some height. Right. And let's just figure out the size here. Okay, we'll move it up in the front view so it's sitting on top of the stair. And let's take the height up. And let's also get rid of the height segments. Let's do a height of maybe 140 and a radius of say 7. Right. And let's just move this in a little bit from the edge. Okay, you can see it's pretty close to the edge here. Right, so we'll just push it in a bit. Okay. Let's also maybe take the sides up to 20 from 18. And we'll just leave it at 1 height segment and 1 cap segment. Okay, and let's right click. And we'll convert this to editable poly. Let's go into polygon. We'll select all the polys. And then let's hold Alt and deselect the side ones. Alright, so we just have the top and bottom cap selected. We'll delete those. And let's go into edge here. And we'll just drag through all the side edges. Okay, make sure you have ignore back facing turned off when you do that. And we're going to do a chamfer on these. So let's open up chamfer. Alright, take the amount down. Let's do maybe about 0.48 or so on that. And okay. And let me just change the color here. Okay, we'll go into polygon and we'll check off ignore back facing here. Alright, and we're just going to go around selecting the thinner polygons. Alright, so every second one. Okay, and you can hit Z to center it to the viewport, the model. Okay, so you can rotate around. Alright, so just work your way around selecting every second one. Okay, and when you're done, you should have 20 pulleys selected. And I think we'll do a bevel on this. So let's open up bevel. Okay, we'll do local normal here. We'll take the height way down. Okay, and we'll also right click the spinner for the outline, just to zero it out for now. Okay, and we'll take the height down to a negative amount. Alright, and we don't need to go super deep. Let's do maybe about negative 0.4. And let's take the outline down a little bit as well. Let's do this in the top view. Let's do maybe negative 0.2 for the outline. Okay, so just like that, we'll hit OK. Right, and then we'll turn off ignore back facing here, and we'll do Control A to select all the polygons, and then we'll hold Alt again and deselect the side ones. So we just have these little ones around the top and bottom selected, and we'll delete them. We don't need them. And let's go back into Edge, and we'll drag right through all the side edges, and we'll just chamfer this down a little bit, just to roll the corners over. Okay, so we'll open up chamfer, take the height down. Let's see, let's zoom in on this. Let's do maybe 0.08 on the first one, and we'll hit apply, and we'll bring the second one down even lower. Alright, let's do maybe 0.02 on the second one, and OK. Alright, we'll get out of Edge here, and we'll see how that looks. And let's also go back into Polygon here, and we'll just select all these polys. Okay, so we have all the polygons selected, and we'll just put this on a smoothing group. Alright, just to get rid of any faceting that we might have. Okay, we'll just maybe just pick a number here. Let's do 9, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, and let's do a test render with F9. Alright, I think that should be good. Okay, and we might need to adjust the length later on. Once we get the other pieces in, it'll look a lot longer than it does now, but we'll do that later on if we need to make any adjustments to the height. Okay, so let's just name it, call it column, and let's do 01, and I'm just going to change the color to black, and put the shader on there. Okay. And you can see that these kind of sit on a small block here, so let's put that in. Let's go back to the top view maybe, and we'll zoom in on the column here. Let's grab a box. Alright, we'll just drag that out over top. Okay, let's get some height. And let's also align it to the column so that it's even all the way around. Okay, so go up to the line tool, click on that with the box selected, and then we'll click on the column. Okay, and we'll check off all 3 axes here, as well as all 3 of these, and we'll put it on pivot point and pivot point. And OK. Alright, so now it's centered to the column, and let's just figure out the position. Alright, that's good right there. So let's select our post here, and we'll just move it up a bit to get some space in between these. Okay. Alright, so you can see that the base here is quite a bit wider than the actual post. Okay, so we're going to have to make the block a little bit bigger to accommodate that size difference. Alright, so let's maybe do 20 by 20 for the length and width, and for the height we'll just do maybe 3.2 or so. Yeah, I think that'll be about right. Let's go with that. Okay, so we'll convert this to editable poly, and we just want to chamfer down the edges a bit. Okay, so let's go back into Polygon, and make sure you have ignore backfacing unchecked, and we'll just select all the polygons here, and then we'll just hold Alt and deselect the side ones so we have the top and bottom selected, and then we'll just Control click Edge to get the top and bottom edge loop selected, and let's just chamfer that down a bit. Okay, And these are also pretty sharp on the edges. Okay, so we just need a small one here. Let's do maybe 0.18 or so. And okay. And then we'll select a corner edge here, do a loop and a ring. Alright, so we have all 4 corners selected, and we'll just chamfer that the same amount. Okay. And okay. And that should take care of the block for us. Alright, so we'll just name it. Let's call it column block 1. Right, and we'll just change the color here. Okay. So the next thing we'll do is start modeling out this base piece here. Alright, let's see if we can find a better picture of it. You can see it's got quite a bit of detail. Right, so rather than doing this the way that we did the stand here, by extruding the polygons, I think we'll actually do this out of a spline and then leave it. Okay, so let's do that now. Alright, let's jump into the front view maybe. Okay, and we'll zoom in on the base here. Let's go in pretty close. And you can see that we have kind of a stair-stepping detail here, and then it kind of goes down and then in and then back out. Okay, so let's grab a line. We'll go into shapes and start this with a line. Right, I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. Okay, so we'll start here at the base. Right, and we'll just come out a little bit. Okay, it doesn't have to be much. And then we'll click and we'll go straight down and click, and we'll come out a little bit more and go down again. And let's go out a little bit farther on this one maybe. Right, and if you hold shift, it'll snap your line to 90 degrees straight. Okay, so that can make things a little easier. So just hold shift and it'll snap straight. Come straight down, maybe about there, and then we'll go back in. And let's go down, and maybe in one more time. Okay, we'll come down a little bit more. And then we'll go in on an angle here. Let's do something like that maybe, and straight back out on a similar angle. Okay, and we'll go down, and then we'll come out, and we'll come out a bit here, maybe like that. And let's go right down to the base, and we'll go over. Okay, and we'll just stop there, and then right click the end. Okay, we'll have to make some adjustments here to get this the shape that we want. Okay. So let's go into the modify panel here. We'll go into vertex. Okay, and we'll just adjust some of these. I think this needs to come down a little bit further. Maybe something like that. We'll move this middle one up. Okay. And this here could maybe come out a little bit as well. Maybe like that. Alright, and let's actually bring these ones here down a slight bit. Whoops. Just like that. And we'll maybe pull these ones up a little bit more. Okay, so something like that. And let's see. Let's curve some of these over. Alright, so we'll go down to fillet, which is way down here. We'll click that, and then we'll click and drag up, and that'll round the vert over for us. Okay, so we'll round this out a bit, maybe like that. We'll do the same thing for some of these ones here. Let's round this one over. Okay, and same thing at the bottom. Let's do a little bit sharper. Okay, and let's grab this one here, and we'll give that a bit of a rollover as well. And let's actually straighten this one here out. So I'm just going to move that vert until it's straight. And then we'll fillet that one just a little bit. And we'll do the same thing down here. Roll this over. And let's do this one slightly. And the same thing with this one. And then for this one here, we'll roll it over quite a bit. Do something like that. We'll leave the bottom one here straight. And I think we can probably just leave these ones square for now. These inside corner ones, we can chamfer that edge later on. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Let's also maybe move these ones here in just a little bit. Alright, so it's not so close to the edge of the block here. We'll just pull it back slightly, like that. Okay. Okay, and let's change the color of our spline here just to something that we can see. So we'll do blue or something, and okay. And what I'm going to do here is just select the base block that we made, this one. Okay, we're going to go into edge, and in the front view I'm just going to drag through the edges here. Okay, and we'll do a connect. And we're just going to do one segment, no pinch, no slide, so we have a segment right in the center of this block. Okay, we'll hit OK to that, and turn off edge, and then we'll reselect our spline. Okay, and let's go back into vertex, and we'll grab this vert here at the bottom, and we're just going to move that back until it's in line with the segment. Or you could probably do this in the top view. Alright, so I'm just going to line that up with the center edge there. Okay, and then we'll go back into the front view. Let's grab the top one here, and we'll pull that in, and we'll line it up in the top view as well. Okay, so we just want to line these two verts up as close to the center mark as we can. Alright, so just like that. Alright, then we'll turn off vertex. Alright, and we'll go into the modify list here, and we'll put a lathe on. Okay, so just choose lathe. And you can see it's kind of screwed up looking there. Alright, so we'll hit max here, and that should fix it. And if it doesn't, just play around with fitting the min, center, or max align. You can also play around with directions until you get it looking like this. Alright, so it's not inside out or anything. If any of the faces look like they're not there, just hit flip normals up here. Okay, check that off. We could actually check off weld core just to weld up the center. Okay, so that's the profile we're looking for, but it obviously is way too rough. So let's add some more segments until it smooths out. Okay, so we'll take the segments up. Okay, we'll go probably pretty high on this. Let's do about maybe 50 and see if that looks good. And that looks pretty smooth like that. Okay, so we'll go with 50 segments here, and we'll right click and convert to editable poly to collapse that down. Alright, and let's also right click and hide unselected here. Alright, so we can just work on this by itself. And if you want to, you can come in here and go to edge and just select these inside edges here. Right, and just work your way down, selecting the inside ones that aren't smoothed out. Okay, and if you want to, you can do a loop on those and just chamfer it down slightly. Okay, so just do a chamfer that's really small on that, maybe 0.05 or so. Okay, so that'll look a little bit better. Right, and as you can see, this is a lot of edges here. We really don't need to have this many edges in certain areas. So if you're concerned about the poly count, you can just take out some of these loops by just selecting a couple of the edges here and just doing a loop and control backspace those out. Alright, now cut your poly down, count down a bit. And you can see we have quite a few at the top here as well. I might just take a couple of these out quick. So I'm pretty much just going to select every second edge here. do a loop, and control backspace. Alright, and at distance that'll have pretty much no difference in how it looks. Alright, so you can go over and clean it up a bit. I'm not going to do that for the tutorial just because I don't have the time to do that. Okay, so let's name this. We'll call it column base maybe. And let's do an 01 on that. And we'll change the color. Okay, and then we'll right click and unhide all. And we'll see how this looks. Okay, so that's not looking bad.